Thank you everybody for coming tonight. I know it was fairly short notice about the training, but we wanted to get this in before the activation that we are expecting later this week. In case you have not heard, evacuation warnings have been issued for some regions in the San Lorenzo Valley and the coast up in the Davenport area. I'd like this to be an interactive class, so please do feel free to speak up if you have questions. And for those of you who've been to the power exercise and stuff, some of this is going to be repetitive, but hopefully it'll still have something for everyone. So with that, we're going to start by talking about, just to recap for those who've been at some of the meetings, what roles we're going to be having in the debris flow. We're going to basically have 4 ARES roles available that we're going to be looking to staff. The first is going to be ride-alongs with fire or law enforcement vehicles to give them a direct channel into the EOC. These will need to be ARES level 2 operators, and they will be 1 operator per vehicle. So the ARES level 2 folks doing ride-alongs will be on their own. We will also be staffing 1 or more temporary evacuation points to help connect the temporary evacuation points to the EOC. You may also be relaying 911 emergency reports. General staffing levels for these are going to be 2 operators of ARES level 1 or higher. As I was saying a little bit earlier, there may also be a training opportunity to include a 3rd operator who is a new person, strictly in like a shadowing training role, let you get your toes a little wet. There will also be, that's not listed on this slide, 1 emergency reporting station in Boulder Creek that will be set up just to collect 911 emergency reports from members of the public. That collection of 911 emergency reports is one of the main topics of tonight's training. We'll also be staffing the Emergency Operations Center. There will be at least 1 ARES level 2 operator leading the team at the EOC, with lower level operators potentially assisting. There will be a training opportunity for our newer operators. If nothing else, we will be needing people to serve as runners in the EOC. Great chance to see what happens in the EOC during an activation and get a chance to learn. We'll also be employing net control operators that will be operating from their home stations. Any ARES level is welcome, but you will need to have strong signal, phone and internet connections, and ideally a certain amount of comfort level with being a net control operator. We're not going to toss someone into this role who is not ready for it. For those of you who are new, if you're not going to be activating for the debris flow, we do encourage you to listen to the radio traffic that's going to be happening to get a feel for what it sounds like and for what the various tasking is. It's a great learning opportunity just by turning on your radio and listening. Any questions on this slide? Okay, nothing heard. So with that, John Gerhardt is going to be talking about your go bag and what to bring to the debris flow. John?
Okay, thank you, Karen. Could you go to the next slide, please? This is this will be a bit of a review, so I won't spend too much time on it. There's an excellent list for go bags, go kits on our website. If you pull down the activities tab.
I have a question real quick. Are we recording before we start?
Yes, we're recording.
Okay, it doesn't show on my thing. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Sorry for the.
So on the website, xczcomm.com, under activities is public safety power shutoffs. That's left over from summer and fall. But on this tab is a complete Go Kit list. Next slide, please, Karen. So this is a summary, just a quick review, most important Go Bag contents. We're communicators, so you want to make sure you have good radio equipment, make sure your radios are programmed, make sure you've got batteries for long time operation. Don't depend on having AC power. An external antenna is strongly recommended. Some of these points are likely not to have strong repeater connections from a handheld with a little rubber ducky antenna, but just a simple J-pole antenna that you can lift up even a little bit will make a huge difference. Make sure you have documentation, your frequency list, your manual for your radio, your identification, DSW, ham radio license, driver's license for ID, and make sure you've got log sheets. We definitely need people keeping accurate logs, the 214 form, and the emergency reporting form, which Karen will be talking about in detail. You want to have plenty of copies of that. Also, we want you to be safe, and we want you to maintain appropriate social distancing. And so, as we've discussed previously, having a method to communicate that visually, tape, chalk, some way to mark an area for people to stand behind so that someone excited and pregnant with a message doesn't come rushing up in their enthusiasm closer to you than they should. We say here, supplies for 3 days. We're not deploying anyone intending to be on a 3-day deployment, but we do fear, in the case of a serious debris flow, that communications, and in addition to communications being a problem, roads may well be blocked, and it's possible that you'll be cut off, and we're supposed to be part of the team that helps. We're not supposed to be a burden on resources that may be feeding, watering, and taking care of distressed people. So think about the supplies you would need if you were cut off and had to stay much longer than anticipated. That's what this list is supposed to remind you of. Karen, anything else I should hit as an important point on this?
I just want to point out that the PSPS list was not intended for the possibility of getting cut off and needing to have supplies for such long periods. So on this slide, the 3 days or more of food and water, clothing, sleeping arrangements, those would be in addition to what's on the PSPS Go Bag list.
The one that's on the website, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, about lighting, what are we talking about? You want, like floodlights? I went looking on the internet for lighting that was battery operated, and I have some of those lantern things that pull up. They're not super bright. What do you recommend for that?
That sounds fine. I mean, ideally, you'd have enough light to make your reporting station evident at night when the power is off. At a minimum, you want to have enough lighting so that you can take reports, operate your radio, stay safe and sound, and not trip over obstructions. More is better, but we're not telling you exactly how to do it.
I just wasn't sure if we're responsible for the safety of the people that are there, lighting for them as well as for our station.
No, it's just for your
Okay.
station.
Okay.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah. As far as as you said, John, your workstation for reporting and everything, a simple headlamp that
Headlamps are great.
goes on your forehead like this is great because it will help you with your workstation and writing, and it allows you to free up your hands to do whatever you need to do. So a couple of those in your bag is a great asset. Back to you.
They're cheap, they're light, and they're handy as all get out.
Brief
Yeah.
suggestion. Once the power goes out, just if you have one of those, wear it around your neck until the power goes back on, even if that's days, because that way you won't set it down somewhere and not be able to find it. Thank you.
Good idea.
Don't know
Good
if
idea.
they still have it, but I bought these. It's they're made by Duracell, 3-pack at Costco for a
Yeah.
very good price.
That's the sort of thing I'm thinking
Yeah.
of too.
So, and they have Duracell. I know I saw them the other day, a 3-pack of little bright LED flashlights, Duracell brand. Come with batteries and all, so it's ready to go. So check out Costco in a couple days if you need lights.
Other comments or questions about Go Bag contents? Okay, back to you, Karen.
Thank you, John. So next we're going to be talking about walking through the process of taking a sample emergency report, and then we're going to talk about ICS 214 logging. This here is the PSPS emergency reporting form. And it was designed for the PSPSs, so it is not ideal and perfect for the debris flows. We don't, for example, have anything on this form in particular about, house buried under mud. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that we haven't had time to update and get through the approval process for a new form. And two, we already have a form that we've been training on, and having a new form would mean twice as much training for us. So we opted to go with the same emergency reporting form for taking emergency reports. That being said, it is a fairly broad-based form. It does allow significant flexibility, and there is always a other section for anything that the form does not have in particular on it. So please keep that in mind. So this form is designed to be printed double-sided. Please do not try to use it on 2 pages single-sided. That's just asking for lots and lots of extra papers to be floating around. If you have no way of printing them double-sided and really need them, we do have some double-sided copies down at the EOC that we can hook you up with. In most cases, this form is designed to be used single-sided. So the intention is that you'll be able to figure out which side you need, right on that side, and not have to be constantly flipping back and forth. We think we've done a pretty decent job of that. So hopefully that proves to be true. The form is both a place to record information as well as a prompt to help remember what to ask the person who's coming to you with an emergency report, based on the major information that Netcom, our 911 services provider, is going to want when we are relaying the emergency report to them. So to use this form, the best way to use it is to first locate the relevant side, section, and subsection before you start writing. These subsections are medical, fire, police, and other, based on what type of response is needed, or what types of response are needed if we need, for example, both medical and fire. Don't hesitate to use multiple sections if appropriate. And use multiple sheets if necessary. One person may be reporting to you that there are 2 people with medical issues that need help. Use one copy of the form for the first person with medical issues, one copy of the form with the second person with medical issues, so that there's room to record for both of them. On the go bag list, just so you know, this form is labeled as the emergency report questionnaire. So what do we do when a person with the emergency approaches? They might come up to you and say something along the lines of, I need help. My son is having trouble breathing. Please help me. I don't know what to do. Well, there's a lot of extra words in this statement, but just the statement that my son is having trouble breathing, we have a lot of information that we can extract from that statement. So we're going to pull out the relevant information. In this case, we know that this is a medical issue. So we can fill out, and the relevant information that you can pull out of this form is all circled here in red, just so you know. So the medical is the type up here that we can pull out because we know it's trouble breathing. That's a medical issue. The son is male. Because so we can fill out the gender. Trouble breathing is our chief complaint, so we can fill out the chief medical complaint. We also know that while they're having trouble breathing implies that they are breathing. So next to this breathing, we can put yes or a check mark to indicate that they are breathing. We also know that they're having difficulty breathing, which is a COVID symptom. So we can put a check mark or a yes next to the difficulty breathing under COVID in the COVID section. The next thing we need, and we also can write a summary based on the information, you know, male with trouble breathing would be an appropriate summary. The next thing we need to do, this box at the top is slightly bolded. We need to make sure that all the information in that top box is filled out, which is 3 fields: what type of incident it is, a summary, and a location. And the location is the location that the help is needed. So where should the emergency responders respond to? It is not your location. It is the location of the emergency. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask the reporting party for whatever information we still need in order to finish filling out this top bold box, which in this case is where is the son? Any questions so far? Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make an initial report to dispatch via our net control. So we're going to call out to our net control. In this example, our net control's tactical call sign is communications relay, and our tactical call sign is Aries 9. These were the actual tactical call signs that were used during the PSPS events, hence why they are in the training slides. So we would call to our net control, communications relay, Aries 9, or communications relay, this is Aries 9. Our net control will get back to us, Aries 9, communications relay, go ahead. So we now have permission to proceed with our reports. Communications relay, Aries 9, I have a medical emergency at my station. Or at whatever the location of the emergency is. In this scenario, the son is with the reporting party at our station. And then we sign with our FCC call sign. Then in the interim, net control is going to contact 911 and make an initial report. So the dispatcher is going to pick up 911, what's your emergency? And say something along the lines of, this is Aries relaying for Aries 9. I have a preliminary report of a medical emergency at Aries 9. Detailed report to follow. The 911 dispatcher might say something along the lines of, acknowledge the preliminary report of a medical emergency at Aries 9. And they might, but they might not, give net control a run number. While this is going on, me at the, while I am taking the report from the reporting party, I'm going to go back to my form and I am going to figure out what information I still need to collect from the reporting party. And to do this, I'm going to look at my form. I'm going to want to finish filling out the entire section that I started filling out, in this case, the medical section. So everything else in the medical section I'm going to want to ask about. And we do have to ask all of the COVID symptoms, unfortunately. So I do need to finish getting the COVID information from the reporting party. So I'm going to ask about, and we want to be compassionate when we're asking the reporting party for more information. They're stressed, and we want to stay calm and try to encourage them to stay as calm as possible, and try to get the most information as quickly as possible out of the reporting party. So is your son having any other symptoms? I need to ask about age. I need to ask about COVID symptoms, and so on and so forth, until I'm done filling out those sections. At this point, I have enough information to go back to make a more detailed report to our dispatch. So I'm going to reach out again to my net control. Communications relay, Aries 9. They're going to tell me to go ahead. And then I'm going to come back and say something along the lines of, communications relay, Aries 9, medical emergency is a 12-year-old male with difficulty breathing located at my station. No other symptoms. Precautions, yes. And then you're going to give your call sign. Now, the precautions, yes, means that COVID precautions need to be taken by the emergency responders. So if any of the COVID symptoms are yes, we do not have to read back all the COVID symptoms to over the radio. We can just summarize that whole COVID section by either saying precautions yes, precautions no, if no COVID precautions need to be taken, or precautions unknown if we are not able to elicit enough information to make a determination. For example, if someone says that, you know, they were driving down the road and saw somebody trapped inside a house where mud was obscuring the house, well, we don't have the reporting party doesn't have any way of knowing if the person inside the house has any COVID symptoms. So it would be no clue. Precautions unknown. Our net control is going to get back to us, confirm medical at your station, precautions yes, or whatever the details are, and then they would pass along the run number to us if they were given a run number by 911 dispatch. Please remember to speak slowly enough that net control can write down everything that you are saying. And remember to use your message passing techniques as appropriate, such as I spell or say again, or any of the other message handling pro words. Net Control is going to take this detailed report that we've given to them, and they're going to make a more follow-up with 911 with the more detailed report. So they're going to call 911 back. 911, what's your emergency? This is Aries relaying for Aries 9, and I have a detailed report for run number, if we have a run number, or I have a detailed report to follow up on my previous call. And then they're going to pass on the information. While our Net Control is doing this, we are going to confirm with and reassure the reporting party. So it might be something along the lines of, ma'am, I have alerted 911 services of your son's condition. Be very careful on this step to make no promises to the reporting party except for anything directly relayed to you as having come from 911 dispatch, in which case it's 911 services says that. We make absolutely no promises because we can't control anything except for the fact that we have made the report. And we're going to do that. We're going to make the report. But after that, whether there's a response or not is out of our personal control. So don't make any promises for things that we aren't in a position to promise. Then, unfortunately, we're not quite done filling out this form. We're going to go back to the form and fill out the last bits of the form. This is the header, the footer, and the reporting party's information. These fields are duplicated on both sides of the form, and you only have to fill them out on one side of the form. The header has the date, the time, where your station is located, and the report ID. You generate the report ID yourself from your call sign and a 3-digit serial number. So the report ID would be your call sign dash and then a 3-digit serial number. Start at 001 and work your way up as you go. The reporter's info, like I said, is the contact information for the person reporting the emergency. In general, we aren't transmitting any of that box over the air unless it's directly asked for by 911 services. And even if they ask for it, under no circumstances do we transmit the name of the reporting party over the air. So I'm just going to say that one more time. Under no circumstances do we transmit any names of reporting parties or victims or those that need help over the air.
Karen, is Medical Reserve Corps involved in this at all?
They are not necessarily involved in this at all. If you happen to have a Medical Reserve Corps person with you and they tell you something that's relevant to the form or ask you to pass something along to 911 services, you would do so. Again, unless it's the name of anybody involved, in which case we would not transmit that over the air.
Thank you.
The footer has your name, your call sign, your signature, and a space for the run number if we get one from Netcom. That the run number field there is optional. It also has room for sheet numbers in case we use multiple sheets on one emergency report. To save time, we highly recommend that you pre-fill out some of this information, like your call sign and your name. You can pre-fill out the station and you can pre-fill out the date as well if you want to. Just if you get busy, you don't want to be stuck. Though if you get busy, worst case that happens, you come back and you put your name on all the sheets when you slow down. After we've done this, we need to make sure that we log the significant activity, because taking a report of an emergency is a significant activity. Log the fact that you've received an emergency report, and log the fact that you've reported it to dispatch on your form. The most important thing to put on your form is the report ID, so that we can associate your 214 activity log with your emergency reporting form. If you don't have much time to jot anything down on your 214, if all you do is put received and then the report ID and reported in the report ID, that's fine. If you get really crunched for time, received/reported report ID is absolutely fine. But we need that report ID on your log sheet with the time. Okay, before we continue into more detail on the ICS 214 form, which is the next slides, are there any questions about the process of taking an emergency report and using the emergency reporting form?
Where can I get copies of the ICS or the PSPS reporting form?
Karen, I accidentally muted you.
Oh, I thought that was intentional, John. Bert, great question. You can find these on the website under
What website?
the xczcom.com website, which is our website.
And along those lines, in the presentation, you're using version 2 of the form, but I have version 3 printed out.
Yes.
Is it okay to use the older versions? Because I have a lot of those printed out too.
It's better to use the newer version because we think we've improved it a little bit. But if you have the older version, you're not going to get in trouble for using the older version.
And it looked like there were just minor changes, like in the report ID and stuff like that. But okay, thank you.
Yep. So feel free. And Bert, to be extremely precise, you would find the form under the form section of the website. More questions?
Thank you.
Karen, for a mudslide debris flow event, does that go under fire?
I would put it under fire, I believe. Scott, do you want to weigh in on that one?
Let's see. Can you pull that form back up again?
Sure.
I was gonna jump in there, but I think, yeah, if you pull it up, let me just look real quick. Go to the page before
that has both of them.
that both sides. Yeah.
Sorry, it's kind of far back.
Okay. Okay, there you go. All right. So, okay, so fire department, that's going to be more fire there. I think, this would be, a mudslide is going to trigger any one of these. It could be a medical aid as a result of the mudslide, debris flow. It could be gas because it might sever some lines. It might knock out a propane tank, knock down some power lines, whether it's a high voltage or a service drop. Could cause a vehicle accident. So I think that if it's just truly a mudslide that's being reported as a debris flow, on page 2 here, the back page, other more details. I was looking at that because I was wondering that same question when we were on this form, when you were talking about.
Scott, how about if there's a person trapped in a house that has been overtaken by mud?
Let's see, that'd be more of a rescue medical. So that would be, yeah, easily you could have probably 3 pages, with different call types. But I think that something like that, if somebody's trapped, inside, assume it's a medical aid, a rescue, it's like somebody trapped in the vehicle, vehicle. vehicle accident and there's somebody trapped inside.
But medical wouldn't be doing a rescue. Wouldn't fire be doing a rescue?
Well, fire's gonna respond to a rescue, and if somebody's
Right.
trapped in there, assume that they're injured, unless you can confirm otherwise. But you're
Oh,
gonna want
right.
fire and medical going to that call that's been overtaken by mud when people are trapped.
Okay, thank you. So fire and medical, thank you.
Yeah, just try to, kind of, common sense and be thinking about those things as to, what could be, that cause is going to be debris flow, right? But it could end up being a fire or being a medical aid. Maybe somebody has a heart attack or something, or falls or gets thrown against the wall or something. I don't know, but that's where that interrogation comes in, asking those questions. What's going on? What happened?
And when all else fails, use the other free form section of the form to take the report, pass on the relevant bits of information to the emergency dispatching services, and let them make the determination.
Yeah, a 2-page form can't cover every possible situation. So this is the meat and potatoes of it. This is the most common stuff that comes across on a daily basis, to keep it brief in a 2-page form. But like Karen said, something's outside of that's additional information, just flip it over, write it down another, get those pertinent details. So the most important thing, remember, we're getting what it is and what the location is, so that the appropriate response can be dispatched. Because maybe that call will only warrant one engine and one ambulance, but if it's a house that slid off down the hill, that might need several fire engines as well as several ambulances, depending on how many people were in the house. Maybe it was a family of 8. So don't know. So that's why it's important to get those details, so that the dispatcher, the actual 911 dispatcher, can send the appropriate response for that call.
Yes.
Back to you.
Thank you. Relevant questions are if there's a car or a house that's impacted by a debris flow, or just a regular debris flow. Is there anybody in the car? Is there anybody in the house? Are there people impacted by this debris flow event, or is it just purely property that's being impacted? But we'll get to that in a little bit. More questions before we continue?
Would you recommend any different procedure if you have a really time critical emergency, like, help, my son's trapped in the car and it's on fire?
That you need to know enough information to fill out that top box in order to make your initial report, which means help, my son's trapped in a car and it's on fire doesn't do you any good if you don't know where it is. You have to stop and go, okay, where is it? And you have to know, so jot down car on fire, person inside, jot down the location, make a tick mark next to fire, and call in the initial report. 911 will do, I forget the term for it. Scott will remind me in a second.
Pre-alert. Here's an example, Alex. Somebody comes up to you and says, help, my son's in a vehicle accident. He's trapped inside, it's on fire. Your first question is going to be, where's the car located at? And that your RP reporting party is going to say 123 Johnson Street. You're going to get onto the radio and you're going to report vehicle accident with fire, victim trapped, 123 Johnson Street. There's your pre-alert. That's enough information for NetCom or any other agency to get the appropriate response going to that location. And then after you do that, then you'll get more details. Make sense?
So the whole purpose of that initial response is to let NetCom get the resources moving in the correct direction as quickly as possible, while we then, busy ourselves with the more time consuming of getting more information. More questions? Okay, great. On to the very important ICS 214 form. So I'm going to go through box by box. And this example that I have pictures of is not perfectly done, but it is a fairly good example, and I did not have, unfortunately, time to put together new examples. So we'll just point out the areas where it's slightly deficient. So box 1, we want to put both the incident name and the activation number in this box. And this is one of those cases where the example is not quite right. The example correctly puts the incident name in the box, which is correct. But we also want to add the activation number. I like to write the activation number right next in the top right corner of the box, and leaving the bottom section of the box for the incident name. Box 2, and this is one of the more common problems I see with ICS 214 forms. Box 2 should have the ICS operational period, not your scheduled shift hours, and not the hours that you are running the log for. Your log might start halfway through. Your log might start before the beginning of the operational period. That's fine. This is the ICS operational period. If you don't know what the operational period is, ask and someone will give it to you. You're not expected to just read the mind of the incident commander and know what operational period they've chosen. If your shift spans 2 operational periods, for example, let's say I'm working a 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. shift, and the operational period for some reason goes from noon each day for 24 hours. I'd have 2 operational periods that my shift spans. Use a separate log sheet, start a new log sheet for the second operational period, and just make a note that your log continues on the next sheet. Box 3, what did I do? Okay, box 3, put Aries in this box. You can also do Aries dash and then your tactical call sign in that box. Either one is fine. Box 4, we put communications. Box 5, Santa Cruz County Aries. Box 6 has your name and your call sign. And then under the name field, radio operator under the ICS position field, and Santa Cruz County Aries again under home agency. In general, you will be the only resource assigned on this form. It will be rare that you will be logging for more than just yourself. In general, it's just your name and just the one name. Box 7 is going to have significant activity, and we'll talk about what that involves on the next slide. Box 8, again, your name and call sign. You may have to abbreviate your name to make it fit into the very small name field there, especially if you want to fit your call sign in too. Your position, once again, is radio operator. And then the date and time that goes on into box 8 is the date and time that you sign the form. So if you forget to sign your form and don't sign it until the next day, put the next day's date in that date and time field. Box 7, things that definitely need to be logged. Particularly log anytime that you're not at your post. So if you take a break and you're away from the communications post, log it. If you take a radio with you and you're still at your post, so to speak, you may not need to log it as a break. But if you're physically away from the radio, if you're physically away from your post and your post is to sit there so that people can find you, log it. So if someone goes, well, I couldn't find a communications person, you can go, yeah, that's because I was taking a break. Or, no, I was right there. I don't know why you couldn't find me. You must have been looking in the wrong spot. Also, make sure to note any injuries or possible injuries. This is for the workers' comp insurance purposes. We want to make sure that if anybody is injured, which we really hope doesn't happen, that there are no issues getting workers' comp coverage. So please note it, even if people think that it's not a big deal. Oh, it's nothing, I'll be fine. Put it on your log sheet anyways, just in case it turns out to be more than nothing later on. Also, make sure you note any staff arriving or departing the communications post. This includes yourself getting to the communications post and leaving. This includes your relief shift, if there's a relief shift. This includes the person you're working with, if there's two of you working there. And if you're the second to arrive and there's two of you working, note that they're already there when you get there. The next thing that's not quite right about this example, you should start your log when you leave your home and finish your log when you return home, which isn't what we've shown here. The reason for this is because during an activation, your insurance coverage starts when you leave your house and finishes until you return home. So if something happens that's notable while you are driving to or from the site, it needs to be logged just in case for insurance reasons.
Karen, quick question.
Yes.
Yeah, is it a good idea to check into the ResourceNet, assuming there is one, or net control advising that you are leaving at that time when you're leaving your home, and write it on your log and check in with the net at that time?
It is a great idea to check in with the ResourceNet when you leave the house, if there is one. If you've already been assigned to a tactical net and you're leaving your house and there is no ResourceNet, it is not a bad idea to, if they are slow enough to do so. But obviously, if they're busy and you can't break in because they have, priority or emergency traffic going on, and therefore you can't break in with your routine traffic, and you will otherwise be late to your shift, leave your house anyways. And call in when you get a chance to, letting them know that you're on your way and where you are. Does that clarify it, Roberta?
Affirmative.
Thank you. More questions?
I have a couple questions.
Please, Vince.
First is, you make it sound like, I guess I want some clarification on, should both people at a location be, even though one might be doing the reporting, should both people be filling out their own ICS 214 forms? If you do that, then they both happen to be there, they may both record the same event or like the same incident.
Yes, that is correct. If you are stationed with somebody else, you should both each be doing your own individual ICS 214.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Vince, did you hear my response?
I did not, I'm sorry.
Okay, you are correct. If you're posted with somebody else at a communications post, you should both be doing your individual 214 logs. So you'll have two, at the end of the day, what will be turned in is one log for you, one log for your partner. You guys may both log some of the same stuff, and that's okay. Only the person who takes an emergency report needs to log the receipt of the emergency report. But if you're reporting it to dispatch and your partner's taking, jotting it down, then you're gonna log that you reported it. So you would log your significant activities, and your partner
Okay.
would log their significant activities, and it just would so happen that there would be some overlap.
Okay, the main question was about us both doing 214 forms. So thank you for that. Second question is a quick one, and I'm not certain I understand what the activation number is supposed to be. That box, part of the box.
So the activation, you're not sure what the activation number is or where it goes in the box. Okay, so I'll answer both questions. So Vince, the activation number will be given to you when you are approved for deployment. If you are not given an activation number, do not go ask for it. If someone goes, "Oh, I don't have one to give you," then you go, "Hey, wait, without an activation number, you're not covered by insurance. Without an activation number, you don't go deploy."
Okay, I didn't understand where it came from last time.
Yeah, activation number is provided by the EOC
Okay, thank you.
when we are officially activated. And then just stick it in the box with the incident name. It doesn't really matter which one goes where that much. I just like to write the activation number in the top right corner of the box and the incident name starting in the bottom left corner of the box, because that's what works for me.
Quick question, Roberta.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if it's super, super busy and we need to have a scribe and have the second person who's there be the scribe, then we may only have one 214. Is that correct?
That is correct. You would still, everybody would still have their own 214 when, for like leaving their house and returning to their house. So you would write on your 214 that, logging's being taken over by this person as my scribe, see their 214, and then resuming logging.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question. More questions? Okay, another thing to make sure you do is double check to make sure your name is in box 6. If your name's not in box 6, people will assume that you weren't there, and we want to make sure that we know that you were there. Keep in mind, the 214 logs are legal documents. They will be, not maybe, but will be scrutinized after an incident. They may end up in court. They will there's a very high probability that they will be requested as part of a Freedom of Information Act request by the news media. Keep them professional. Keep the language professional. Try to keep the writing clear so that people can reconstruct what happened if they need to afterwards. Don't doodle in the margins. Don't put anything on there that you don't want to have to stand up in a courtroom and explain, because you may have to stand up in a courtroom and explain every line on your 214 and every doodle in the margins. And please, please, please remember to sign your 214 forms. We absolutely have to have a signature on them because they are, like we've said, a legal document.
Can I share a rule that we had in the fire department with
Yes, please.
regards to any public documents or recordings or anything? Don't put anything on your document that you would not want to see on the front page of the newspaper. That's all I got.
Thanks, Scott.
I got a quick one for you, Karen. Just to confirm for the 214s, activity log, we need to enter when we leave our homes and when we return to our homes?
Yes.
Okay, so we are then, how are we getting our 214s to their ultimate destination? Are we scanning and emailing? Are we snail mailing? Are we dropping it by as soon as we've been? No, because then that would, anyways.
You will be turning them in via scanning and emailing, or take a picture of it with your phone and send the picture in. You will be, and I forgot to put this on the slide, my apologies. So thank you, Mikhail, for reminding me that I wanted to discuss it. You will be sending a copy of your 214 to your EC and to Gary Watson at the EOC_ACS at santacruzcounty.us email address, I believe is his email address. The same email address you used to submit your certificates of completion for your training, for your FEMA trainings too.
Thank you.
If you aren't certain who to send it to, send an email and ask, and somebody will remind you who to send it to. But in general, send it to your EC and to Gary. If you have multiple ECs because you belong to multiple groups and you aren't sure, go ahead and send it to all of them. The worst that happens is they get a couple extra emails.
And real quick, do you know off the top of your head who the ECs are for the different
Yes.
locations?
For Loma Prieta, that would be Burt Bailey. For San Lorenzo Valley, that's Bob Fike. And for the coastal area, technically it's Clint Raymer, but you'll actually be sending your 214s for the coastal area to John Gearhart.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Becky coming in on the phone. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Becky.
Thank you. What if we have no power or internet? Should we mail a hard copy, or what should we do?
You will probably be getting power and internet back in time to submit them electronically.
Okay, just as soon as we can, but it doesn't have to be immediate if we're not able.
No, at the end of the incident is fine. If you think you're going to be without power for a duration and have no way of submitting an electronic copy, get it to your EC.
Okay. Via U.S. mail or?
Via whatever
Sometimes that's all we have.
at your disposal.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Great question. More questions? Okay. Next, Scott Green is going to be talking to us about what to do when we have multiple people reporting emergencies at the same time. Scott?
All right, thank you, Karen. So there will be times when you're out at your station and you get 2 or 3 or more people coming up reporting an incident. And everybody will think that their incident has the highest priority. So it will be your job to triage those and prioritize. And that order is number 1, life, goes life, property, environment, and then all others, anything that doesn't fall under 1 through 3. So when you get a couple people coming up to you at once and they start, like for example, the first person comes up and says, hey, I need to report some power lines down. So you're going to start filling out your form. And then, maybe 20 seconds later, somebody comes up and says, hey, my neighbor's grandmother just fell down the stairs. So obviously that's going to distract you. And you're going to have to stop for a moment because now you have a life emergency and you're going to have to shift gears. You're going to grab another form and you're going to start a whole new one, and you're going to grab the basic information. What it is, 87-year-old female fall victim at 327 Smith Street. And then you can do your pre-alert. And then once you do your pre-alert, then you can resume with gathering the information for the injury for the medical aid. And once you have that, you can go back to your first call, which was your power lines down call that came in. So, and you could have, 2, 3, 4, 5 people come up at once, reporting something like that. So you're going to have to really focus and prioritize and determine, is this life, property, and environment? And you're going to have to go in that order and take those calls, certainly the life threats first, and get those out, get those pre-alerted, and get those dispatches out, and then go on with onward with your property and environment calls. All other calls, I'll give you a couple examples. You'll get people that come in that say, hey, I was driving down the road and I saw there's a raccoon stuck in the fence. Okay, so that's going to be your, probably your number 4. Although some people probably would argue that would be number 1, and I think some people think animals are probably higher than human life. I don't know, but so you're going to have to be very firm, and remember you're going to have to take control of that situation. So people are going to be very anxious, upset, mad, whatever it may be, but remember, just stay calm, take control of the situation, and don't let them ramble on, because they'll come in, and some people will come in and tell you their life story, just simply trying to report that there's a 67-year-old male with chest pains. Okay, so you got to weed through the BS and get the facts, just the facts, ma'am. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer, clarification? And I think this is probably a review for most people on. Questions, comments, anybody? I think that's all I got, Karen.
Thank
Anything
you,
else
Scott.
comes up, I can come back to it.
I appreciate it. At this point, we'll go ahead and take questions on any topic that we covered, as well as general questions about anything to do with the debris flow deployments and activations. This is your chance to ask us anything. If questions come up for you later, or for anybody who's watching the recording, our email addresses are on the screen for myself and John. Feel free to send us an email asking your questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Vince.
So this came up in the after action critique that we did for the deployment in the fall, I think it was. When there's no activity, how often should we be checking in with and first of all, who does the check-in, and then what is the interval to make sure that the stations everybody's still in good standing? Is it Net Control's responsibility, and what's the interval?
It is Net Control's responsibility to conduct health and welfare checks dependent on the traffic on the net, and generally every 30 minutes to an hour is appropriate. If you are concerned and you'd like more frequent health and welfare checks or less frequent health and welfare checks, talk to your Net Control operator about what you'd like, and come to an arrangement with them.
Thank you.
More questions?
I have one, just in thinking a bit. Is it prudent to ask if there is any cause for security precautions? For example, if they have let's say a pit bull that may be there, or if there are any reasons for them to believe there would be need for security precautions.
You mean when you're taking an emergency report?
Yeah.
You can ask. It doesn't hurt. I wouldn't lead with that. But certainly, if they're talking about something that makes you wonder if the emergency responders are going to be safe, definitely ask a little bit more about it, and relay the information if it seems pertinent. I don't think anybody wants to be walking into a hazardous situation without knowledge. If you'll note on the police section of the form, there is information to ask about weapons and things like that as far as suspects are concerned. So that would fall under the safety concerns that you're asking about, Becky.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Roberta.
Yeah, as far as the TEP locations, have those changed significantly from initially when they were proposed, like Boulder Creek, Gulf, and stuff like that? Do we have knowledge of where those TEPs are going to be besides SLV Valley High?
My understanding is that they have not changed. They've been decided on by the county. I'm not recalling them all off the top of my head. There is one in Scotts Valley, as I recall. I believe 1 or 2 in Boulder Creek, and
SLV High.
I forget where the last one is.
San Lorenzo Valley High School.
Okay. But
Okay.
no, I don't believe they've changed. Thank you. More questions? Okay, if there's nothing else, then I want to thank everybody for taking the time on a Sunday evening at fairly short notice to join us for this training. John and myself, and hopefully Scott, will stick around for a few minutes in case anybody has more questions. But I think at this point we can end the recording and wish everybody a good night. Please don't hesitate to contact us if questions do occur to you later.